Hi, and welcome to FrazlCast. Climb aboard the gnome train.
Chugga, 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 chugga.
Please make sure to keep your limbs and experimental instruments inside the train at all times. And now, on with the show.
A podcast by a Blizzard fan gnome about World of Warcraft and geeky stuff. I promise you, they do talk about the World of Warcraft. They just go off the rails sometimes.
And tonight, we will definitely be on the rails for maybe about half of the show, because then afterwards, I want to learn more about this fancy new podcast that my guest has, and that I'm also a co-host on. But I'm Frazley, and I am joined by Sascz of Translucidity. How you doing, my friend? It's good to have you back.
I thought you said something about you wanted to know about my pants, and I was like,
No.
oh.
I mean, I unless the pants are fancy and fabulous, I don't, like, if they're just boring regular pants, not as interested.
Well, yeah, today I'm actually wearing Fruit of the Loom's boxer briefs, so
Yeah.
not the most exciting. Very often I have my silky sweet MeUndies on, but not today.
If only they
Yeah.
were sponsored, because then you could be wearing MeUndies.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm just wearing the plain ones, because MeUndies isn't sponsoring.
Yeah, come on, MeUndies. You had your chance, but you blew it.
Yeah, I could have been wearing my hedgehog butt, but no.
Yeah. Well, you know somebody who, I don't know if he has MeUndies, but I do know he's sponsored by a beard company. Epic Insanity, what time is it?
It's time to go around the table.
Great idea. So what have you been up to recently?
Well, let me see. I'm still unemployed, which really sucks. Honestly, I thought I was going to find a job right away, because the last time I was out of work, I found a job right away, but then unfortunately it ended.
Yeah.
So, but I just thought it would be immediate. I was just like, what's the big deal? And it wasn't. And of course, you know, the big difference between the two things is COVID, but I didn't think it was going to affect my field. So it's very, I don't know. I'm very upset about it, but whatever.
Yeah.
Still hopeful. I actually just broke ground yesterday on the writing for a fantasy novel I have been contemplating for a couple of years now. So, I mean, when I say broke ground, I think I wrote 2 sentences, but it's still,
Yeah.
that's something.
And so is this one that, like, you've had it for a long time, that like it's been mulling in the back of your head?
Percolating in my brain, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm still a little bit uncertain of exactly where the plot is going. But I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to start. And if it sucks, it sucks. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. It's very, very, very loosely based on some stories that I worked out while I was role playing over on Moonguard.
Ooh.
With my WoW tunes. It has not. I don't know if anybody who I talked to at that time listens to this show. If they do, they have nothing to worry about. I am not taking anything from anybody. I'm taking things that I worked out in the background in my own mind about my own characters, without their characters or their situations being at all involved.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
That reminds me of somebody who, G. Norman Lippert, and this was again before all the stuff with rolling, but he did a fantasy fan fiction series for called James Potter, and he had a character in there that he had been working on. So he actually took that character. It was unique to him. Took away all the other parts that would tie it to Harry Potter and released a novel on that. And now he's actually doing other works based off of that work. So it's I love that idea of, like, taking stuff that like you've worked on and fleshing out into its own unique story.
Yeah, well, I get the impression it's really common, honestly, in fantasy circles to base things on stuff either from role-playing games, D&D, and there's some very obvious D&D novels out there. And I'm not talking about novels that are, like, published by, is it still Wizards of the Coast? I don't even know.
I think so. And I know there's a lot of, like, TTRPG companies now based off of that.
Yeah, but, I mean, I'm not talking about, actual novel tie-ins. I'm talking about people who take their D&D campaigns and novelize them.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can be really obvious and badly done. Like, so-and-so walked a few steps to the north. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
But if it's done well, I'm reading right now a trilogy that I think was probably based on somebody's D&D campaign or at least tabletop role-playing experience. But it's so well done that I'm really enjoying it. It's called the Elvish Trilogy by, I think it's S.G. Prince is the name. And it's really good. I'm on the second book right now, and I've seen a few flaws in it, but it's pretty good. So I've been doing that. I've been reading some other fic, and I've been playing so much WoW. But I guess we'll probably talk about that later. So maybe I should put the WoW stuff later.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'll move mine down later too, because we actually got quite a bit of WoW news today.
Yeah. WoW is wowing along. So yeah, that's what I've been up to. I'm really excited about writing more. I'm hoping that I can spend at least an hour or so doing that per day. So,
and I think that's smart because it you don't burn out on it, and like you're able to like do other stuff as well. And going forward, I think I'm going to avoid burnout in Shadowlands. I'll talk more about that as well as we go into that. I've been playing some other games in addition to WoW. I finally finished Darksiders, and that was phenomenal. I love the fact that it's like the religious end times, and I mean it's and things that I've read about in the Bible, seeing them like how they portrayed that, and I've always wanted to play it. The game is fucking phenomenal. Like you are having to do the proper moves on time. It's frustrating. Like I wanted to turn the difficulty down, and you can't, at least in the first one. But I'm glad I finished it. And like, I'm surprised at some of the stuff that they did. I love that it was puzzles, fighting. It's really well done. And for being a game that was made in 2010, it still lives up. It looks amazing, in my opinion.
oh wow, I'm gonna have to try this game. Of course, I always say that, and then it's like, oh, am I going to play a game? It will probably be WoW.
Yeah,
Right?
and that's why I've been trying to add in other games. I'm still, again, WoW. This is a WoW podcast. WoW's my main game. But I've been trying to enjoy other games. Like one game, and I've talked about this a lot, is Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. I have futzed around with it as a kid, and it was a game that I remember my sister going into the game store, and she was buying this game, and I'm like that kid like being like, wow, this game is cool. My sister is cool. She's a geek. She's awesome. I love her, and all that. And I was like, I've always wanted to beat this game. I've never done it, so this is my next game. Is I'm going to beat A Link to the Past, and the first playthroughs on YouTube, and I'm going to be trying to upload the VODs to YouTube as well, because I want to, like, this is a very historic game, and it's like the music when I'm hearing it, bringing chills, because I got to see her play different parts of this game, and I love it so much.
God, it seems to me like it was just the other day that it was released.
I know.
I'm like, is this historic? Oh fuck.
I grew up with like 6 or 7. To me, it doesn't feel like that old of a game, really, and it's amazing. I love how they even tried things like the map was like almost a 3D overworld map. I like the things that they were able to do on the SNES, and I am so glad that Switch has their emulator, because then I don't want to get into like the pros and cons of ROMs, but I'm at least glad that it's something that I can play without fear of like having to find old games and all that, and old ROMs that it's Blizzard doing it. I did hear, I believe it was on Nintendo Switchcraft, or maybe it was the Nintendo Shack. Yep, I've been listening to a couple of Nintendo podcasts, because having a Switch now, I'm getting addicted to all Nintendo news. But they were saying that there's rumors that the Game Boy may be coming to Switch Online as well. Like, that would be amazing.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Because, sometimes I miss my Game Boy. I ended up giving it, because I wasn't really using it, I ended up giving my really, really fancy tricked out Game Boy to my son several years ago, and I know he still uses it. That's because honestly he was gonna go out and spend a lot of money on one, and get it all tricked out and stuff. And I was like, listen, I'm probably never gonna use this again. I feel bad sitting around with it. and having it when you want one. So here, and I don't regret that, but at the same time, I miss a lot of Game Boy games that
Yeah.
I had.
I'm
So-
hoping if Nintendo can be bringing back a lot of these old titles and all that, like even old DS titles. I know 3DS has been discontinued, so at some point we may see 3DS stuff, but like if they can just pump the stuff into the Switch, not focus on like the big titles, though they do have a way around that because Control has a cloud version on it, and I got a friend he's been playing Control on
neat.
Switch over the cloud, and I think if Switch can really capture that market of just pumping it full of things and like make it your legal ROM thing. Again, I'm not saying that other ROMs are illegal, but I'm just saying if they can really get into that, they could really capture a huge market. And maybe they are. Maybe they're working on adding more and more stuff because, I mean, Switch Online, if they added it to the home screen, it's not like they have some big stuff that they're working on there.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Well, today, I want to talk about one of the most anticipated games of all time, and I will not mention that other game. I have my own thoughts on that other game, but one of the most anticipated games of all time, at least to us as WoW fans, the Shadowlands.
Woohoo!
So
Yeah, I love it.
we've had 3 weeks to play it, and I can't believe it's already been 3 weeks. I just finally hit 60 on Frazley, and I'm still working through Revendreth.
That's awesome. I actually hit 60, and we weren't in war mode, so it kind of surprised me, but we hit 60 as we ended Ardenweald. And I was like, oh, fuck, we still have to do Revendreth? Because we both wanted to go Ardenweald.
Oh, yes, it is amazing.
Yeah, but we went ahead and we played through Revendreth before we chose a Covenant. Just so we could see what, the Covenant abilities would be like and la la la. And they are pretty cool. The ones for both Hunter and Druid, but we definitely decided to stick with Ardenweald. But yeah, leveling is really, especially if you're doing it with somebody else, leveling is just like, you just do it.
Yeah.
It's so fast.
And I'm glad that they buffed leveling because I was playing the beta of the campaign, and I got to a point where I finished all of the main campaign. I still had 2 levels to go to get to the next part. So I'm actually glad that you can do it. And I got a bigger advantage because I did side quests as well. But I'm glad that you don't have to do side quests to get to 60.
Yeah, I think that's why we did all the side quests that we could find.
Yeah.
In all the places, because I think we weren't sure that we were ever going to get around to doing them on our other tunes or whatever. And yeah, so I think that's why we hit 60 at the end of Ardenweald, was because we had done all these side quests, and and on top of it, gathering professions will give you a little XP, et cetera, et cetera. So pet battles, I guess, still do that. So yeah, so we did hit 60 a lot sooner than I thought we would. But as I say, we pretended we didn't, and we just played through Revendreth as if we hadn't hit 60.
Yeah.
And then went ahead and, turned everything in and went, yes, we want Ardenweald for our Covenant. Ardenweald is the best Covenant!
It is. And like the characters and stuff like that. I don't want to say too much because we're still in that moment where I don't want to spoil anybody on any specifics.
It's so awesome.
Yes.
I also love some of the mounts and toys you can get. We haven't gotten everything yet, but there's like a harp toy in Ardenweald. Oh, yeah. So there's this one place, and I don't think it's too far from Heart of the Forest, but it could be wrong because I don't remember where it is. Or maybe it's that it's not too far from the first section. We got it really early on. But you see a harp, I think it is, like a larger standing harp, and a big drum. And if you and another person, I think you have to be in a group, but if you both play them simultaneously, then you can open the box that's between them, and it's a little harp toy. The only thing, you can play this harp toy, it has, you can play for 10 minutes, and it has a 2-minute cooldown, so you can be playing it continuously. The only problem is you cannot move.
Okay.
You can mount if like you can't mount on a mount, but say there's a druid in mount form in your group, you can mount a druid as long as you don't have to move to get to them. So they have to be standing right beside you. So you can do that. which means you can play mounted on a druid in Mount Flint.
Oh, I gotta go mount some
Yeah.
druids now.
Yeah.
Wait, no, not like that. Not like that. Not like that.
Frazley, I do declare.
And that,
Heavens. And you can be in combat, which is the hilarious thing. As long
Ooh.
as you don't like move, like you can turn around and stuff, you can spin around and, you know, reorient yourself. You just can't step anywhere. You know, you can't. But yeah, so it's hilarious what you can accomplish. And you can just be playing it all the time. It plays this beautiful harp music. So I think it's Blizzard getting back at all the people who wanted them to introduce a bard class.
yeah, well, and
They're like, see, now you can be a bard.
I'm okay with that. I mean,
As
like,
long as you don't move.
yeah. It reminds me of Star Wars Galaxies because I don't think it'll surprise anybody, but I was a dancer and a musician in Star Wars Galaxies, so I could shake my hips and heal you and all that, and that was a lot of fun. And I would spend hours just being in the cantina as a dancer and then as a musician. That was what I loved to do. Like people would come in from all the stuff, like rangers or medics, they would do all this stuff. They would come in for a while, and then I would just be there. And I loved that part of the open world sandbox nature of the original Star Wars Galaxies, and that you could do that.
I didn't play it, unfortunately, but that sounds good.
And I got tips, so it was nice to like help somebody, and then they'd be like, "Oh, here you go. Here's some stuff," because you had to train as a musician. So I was a classically trained musician.
Oh my God, awesome. See, I'm one in real life, so I know how awesome that is.
Okay, and in real life, no, I can't sing. I can't do any of that stuff. But yeah, I'm loving everything that's like in Shadowlands, and it's so much fun. I'm definitely taking it slow because I'm not going to do raiding. I saw Jared RPG playing Nathria, and it looks amazing. Like inside, I think that raid. I hope that they add into Winter Veil decorations, but that raid looks really cool.
I would love to do it. My guild isn't raiding. We lost enough bodies, and even though we've consolidated with some servers, some RP servers because I'm on an RP server, but we consolidated with some more RP servers. We used to be Raymond Holt Twisting Nether, and this is in the US, and now we've got, I forget, 2 new ones, and I don't remember what they are now. One of them's some goblin name, and I forget what the other one is. But anyway, so I was like, well, why can't we just recruit? You know? But the thing about my guild is they kind of want to make sure that you're a nice person.
Okay.
It's very friends and family. And the only reason I'm even in it, because I'm not a nice person, is that my partner is in it.
Okay.
And so he's got a lot of friends in the guild, and he was the one who was originally invited. And then it was like, well, I guess your wife can come. I mean, no, they didn't put it like that. They were like, well, if it's your wife, it must be nice. And, you know, at the time I was a wife.
Yeah.
So they were like, yeah, your wife can come along as well. And they've been frustrated with me because as time goes on, my reflexes have been getting worse and worse. So, you know, doing all the cool utility that a hunter is supposed to be able to do was kind of beyond me. And that would frustrate them because it's like, well, you know, we have a whole bunch of hunters in this fucking raid and they all suck. But I tried. I learn.
Yeah.
I do learn. And, you know, and I tried really hard, and, you know, and I certainly like didn't blame healers if I died or whatever, you know. I was very polite, but as I say, this season we don't seem to be raiding, and I think it's because we've lost a lot of our core members. I think it was on principle. I think it was issues with Blizzard is the reason why we've lost these people. But I think also that the disappointment that was Battle for Azeroth really made a difference as well.
Yeah.
The morally gray direction that Sylvanas went in, I think, you know, just upset a lot of people as well. I know it's funny because my partner Chris will talk about Sylvanas and how much he hates her. And I actually, with Shadowlands, and I don't want to give anything away, but with Shadowlands, you come to understand the reason she was such a raging asshole in BFA. And you come to understand that. And it doesn't make it okay, but you understand that she's not just evil.
I'm glad to hear that, because that was one thing that I know we had Tosh Mifune on right after we had Sylvanas has burned the tree, and Tosh has done something that has stuck with me. We're in a living story. We're seeing this play out, and I'm glad to know that Shadowlands will answer some stuff, and I'm glad to see that. That's what I'm excited for. Is I want to see what's coming next, and I think a lot of people are wanting to come back too, because Tech Radar has a thing that Shadowlands becomes the fastest selling PC game of all time. Because I know,
right? Yeah, I saw that.
Grand Theft Auto 5 I think is still the best selling PC game, or not PC game, best selling game overall on everything, but PC wise, I think Shadowlands is the best selling PC game, and this is from Blizzard. That this was in a recent investor report, according to them, and the previous title holder was Diablo 3. So that's pretty phenomenal.
Which was a good game, yeah. Yeah, I'm glad that a lot of people came back to Shadowlands. I just wish more of them had been in my guild.
Oh, yeah.
Because I really, really would like to be raiding right now. But at the same time, I'm probably not really capable of raiding. And I think that they were just keeping me around to be nice. There are people in my guild who are raiding, but they're not raiding as a guild, from what I understand. So.
And I definitely want to try, even Nathu's one I want to try LFR. I hope I have enough determination to do that.
Yeah, LFR is always such a hard sell for me. I don't think I did it at all last expansion, but then there was a whole point where I just didn't play last expansion.
Yeah.
Even on my main, I never played through the entire story until long after the last content patches had come out. I was going to Mechagon and Nazjatar and stuff, but I hadn't played through the end of the last zone that I was in, which meant that I hadn't unlocked some of the stuff in Stormsong.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Which made World Quest really hard to do before I got flying. But I mean, it took me forever to get flying, because I've always been one of these people who says to people, it's not hard to get flying, just play the damn game. But I wasn't playing the game. I mean, I completely lost interest after my main hit, whatever it was, 120, I didn't care, and
yeah,
so, and I'm trying not to get to that point now. There are days when I can't play, and it's because I can't sit up, but I don't want to get burned out. Professions are better too. Do you have any professions?
Yes.
On your...
I've got mining and engineering on Frazley.
Oh, okay. I'm hearing engineering's a lot easier. I haven't gotten into that on any of my tunes yet, but I got to max in both skinning and leatherworking so easily on my main, and that was surprising. And I'm most of the way through tailoring and enchanting on my second tune. So, that's so there's still more you can learn.
Yeah.
But at least you're at max level and you don't have to worry about getting those points. I had the worst time in BFA getting up as far as I needed to get, because it was gated behind raiding and dungeons.
That's right. Yes, because I never did a lot of those because of that thing, and I think that's why I didn't really do a lot of professions in BFA.
Yeah, I finally got to max in skinning and leather. Well, skinning wasn't hard, but leatherworking. I finally got to max, and I just didn't even bother on any of the other professions to even try. It made me so mad what I had to go through just to get to max level. And I was trying not to, quote, cheat or whatever with Dark Moon Fair
Yeah.
I wanted to actually get the points. But it was like, to make this thing, you have to get this stuff in this raid and do this and that. And it's like, if you don't want to do even LFR, you're screwed, And there's the last time I was in LFR, which I think was the expansion before Legion, doing LFR and Legion was so toxic.
Yeah, I remember I was in the Trial of Valor. That's the one with Helia, and I get legendary, and someone's like, "Oh, I cannot believe a DPS scrub got a legendary," and it's like, "I'm sorry,
a scrub."
I was called that, but
fuck you.
Well, I'm at least glad Sascz.
Not you.
Oh yeah, no. I'm glad that Sascz embraced the scrub because Scrub versus the World, he says, "Embrace being a scrub." So I will embrace being a scrub, but no,
I'm a filthy casual. That's me.
I still remember in Legion, I was in a dungeon and I was leveling, and someone's like, "My warrior does better than you, and my warrior is 103." I was 110. Now, their name was Baby Mama, and I was like, I'm nothing against Baby Mamas, but I was just like, you had a Baby Mama 103? You're not really adding a character that's lore part of the game. I'm not going to take my perspective from you. I'm sorry.
I actually reported somebody for their name the other day, and I usually don't do, like, I'm on an RP server. So when there's people and they're actually from my cluster, and I see them, it's like, okay, RP names are supposed to follow, but it's like, I have a few silly names as well.
Yeah.
Here and there. So, even on RP servers, particularly if they're bank alts, so it's like, whatever. But I saw this one, and the name was, "Whoa, nice cock." And I was like, no, not okay.
Yeah.
It's like, it's one thing if, like, there was another person who was like naughty kung fu or whatever, and I'm like, okay, fine. Screw around. You shouldn't have these names on an RP server, but whatever. But if it's like really heavily sexual like that, no.
Yeah, especially, I hate to use the like, think of the kids, but I mean, kids as young as 13 are playing this game, and it's like,
exactly,
that's not a name that you need there.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what, if you can't, if you somehow must play on an RP server and not choose, a name that, would fit in with RP, okay, fine. I know, for instance, that my partner Chris has names like Piss Farts, but he does it in foreign languages. Okay, so his original tune is Adranai, and he gave her a Greek name, Orokleseia, which means piss farts. His hunter is Dunkelbumser, which means something like dark fucking or something like that. It's he's got another one that's like donkey butt or something like that. Kisamatama is his panda. I mean, he'll do, but it's like, but at least it's in a foreign language, and it's probably not a good translation into that language either. It's probably, because terms like that are usually idiomatic. So, it probably doesn't even really mean that in that language, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But, definitely he terrible names, but you can't tell. They actually sound like nice RP names. If you saw the name Orokleseia, you wouldn't go, "Oh God."
Yeah.
Probably not even if you were Greek, but it means piss farts. Yeah.
Cap says he got a 3-hour ban for ass piss on Trollbane.
Well, and see, if my feeling is, keep it. You really should keep your names clean for the children.
Yeah.
But especially on an RP server, it's like, at least try. At least make it look like you made an effort. Whoa, a nice cock. No.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
And I got a feeling that we're going to have a lot more names to report, because Bellular put out a tweet that he was saying the current WoW subs prediction is between 11 and 12 million, based off the investor relations.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of subs.
And he put out another tweet saying he says that he's fairly sure that they can't lie and post the card because of the SEC investigation risk.
Right. Yeah, not in investor stuff.
Yeah.
You can't. So, and why would they? Well, okay. I'm naive. I'm one of those people who thinks that everyone's nice and, elves are sugar coated and things like that. So,
and he did say that they can selectively pick data that looks good.
Right. They can cherry pick it. Yeah.
Yeah. But it is pretty cool that if I'm looking at it right, I think Wrath of the King is still one of the highest, if I'm looking at this thing right, between Wrath and Kata, we're about 12, so we might be at one of the highest sub rates that we've had. And it's interesting that a expansion that's reliving parts of Wrath of the King in different ways. It's cool that this is bringing people back, and I'm excited that people are enjoying it. That it's cool to see people that that don't even play WoW picking up a sub and doing stuff. It's fun that this expansion is so exciting, and someone did.
Superman plays. You knew about that, right? Superman plays.
No.
Henry Cavill said that he actually missed the call to do his original Superman role because he was playing World of Warcraft at the time and he didn't pick up the phone.
Wow!
But then he said he'd stopped playing for a while for the last couple of expansions, but he said he's coming back now because it's easy to level. He said, when it got all the way up to 120, he was just like, I'm never going to catch up. No, I'm not going to do this. But he said now that it's just, the max is back to 60 again, he says he's going to start playing again.
Nice.
So, yeah.
And he also somebody said he can turn PC building videos sexy. I'm like,
yes. Oh, I'm sorry. He is a good looking guy.
He is. I have to admit. I mean, again, I'm not really attracted to people, but I think I can possibly see if people are attractive. I think.
What is it? What is it that? You might not have gotten to this part yet. I better not. It was a quote from WoW. Well, I can tell you what the quote is. I could grate carrots on those ribs. When you hear it, because you will if you play through the whole story in Revendreth, I could grate carrots on those ribs.
That is
the best line in the game.
That quote is so great.
Dies.
I had to put a pun on great.
Oh, I have to hurt you now, Frazley. Let me crawl through my microphone.
So I would say that we are enjoying Shadowlands. Like I think it's been great. It is. I love what Hottie Chicken said on a tweet that it has been healing for so many people, and it really is. That did you see
healing?
Healing is in like something we've been looking forward to, something that can get our minds off of everything that's going on, something we can enjoy. A cool thing that she found was in Ardenweald, one of the playtesters lost their cat during this year. Well, Blizzard added the cat into Ardenweald next to their player, like NPC character, and you can go pet the cat. And I'm thinking, how cool is it that their cat's living on in this game? I'm like,
that's darling. Wow.
And then I'll add another cool thing that I saw. Dust Mephisto was doing some looking into who the actor was behind Pelagos, because we all love Pelagos, being a trans represented character in the game. Well, right. Pelagos' actor is trans. Elliot Fletcher.
Oh my God.
So
Wow. I wouldn't have guessed. Wow. Oh God. Sorry, I have to go look this up now.
This is like stories like this is like showing like I love this. It's stories that make you feel good. I mean, and I'm absolutely loving this. It's also fun to see community members get immortalized as different characters. Like I think Herculia has it. I'm trying to think of somebody from WoW that has a character now in they have an NPC, and it was just cool to see like validation for all the work that they've done. And
yes, I love seeing NPCs that I recognize. Even if I don't really know anything about the person, just that I recognize that this is an NPC based on, somebody who's a big fan of the game.
Yeah.
Or, whatever.
And like
So-
Desmond Fisto has Des Fistum's gloves. I mean, like he has gloves in the game that are plate because he got 100% of the plate armor. So I mean, it is cool seeing people and seeing Blizzard recognize what impact that they've done.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I just looked Elliot Fletcher up. That is so cool.
And Grenega says what he loves about Shadowlands is that it's entirely new storyline, nothing we've ever seen before with ties to the world we know, a totally new view and viewpoint of the universe. That is right, because when we're there, they're like, oh, you're from Azeroth. Yeah, and it's fun that like you see parts of it, like you see different things that we've seen on Azeroth here or talked about it, but it's cool learning about a new lore and learning about a new area.
I was just thinking because if you choose the Ardenweald Covenant, and again, I'm not going to spoil it per se, but an event happens almost immediately after you choose the Ardenweald Covenant.
Ooh, I'm excited.
Oh my God, Frazley, you're going to die. I just sat there the entire time shrieking because I'm not playing in the same room with my partner anymore. We usually have a Discord video call going. And we were just sitting there going, ah! Like that, just shrieking and screaming and grabbing ourselves, because, it's just, and when you're talking about Azeroth and, how they say, oh, you're from Azeroth, they keep kind of getting it wrong during the event. And it's just.
Oh, I think I might be doing that either tonight or Sunday night.
Oh God, you've got to see it, Fraz. It is the best.
I can't wait. Oh, you're getting me excited.
Ever. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I want to put at least one tune in each covenant.
Same.
And do as much as I can in those covenants. It kind of gets me because my next tune that I'm leveling is an arcane mage. And she's very, even though she's not a night elf herself, because you couldn't be a night elf mage when I first created her, and I don't usually race change. I have every once in a while, but I usually don't. But she's very tied to the night elves. She's very, sympathetic with them and very into them. And because of that, I wanted to make her Ardenweald as well, because that's kind of the night elf quote unquote thing to do, and then on top of it, I wanted to make my night elf druid Ardenweald. So I'm kind of like, those are the ones I would normally do next. But I'm kind of almost want to skip those, leveling those, and do somebody who I want to have it in another covenant instead, just to see what it's like. But yeah, definitely Ardenweald, just right after you join the covenant. It's just, oh my God. And you'll love it.
I agree. Like it's amazing. I do agree with Grennegas that Ardenweald is sad, and there's a reason it's sad. And oh my God, I cried again. Oh, but yeah, I don't want to. And
it is sad, but they're all sad to some extent.
They are.
Even the ones who try to be, silly about it. I mean, I think Maldraxxus is pretty sad.
Yeah.
With the whole storyline there, and Revendreth is. It's actually not so much maybe sad as it's almost campy.
It
really
makes me angry because I'm working through some stuff in my life I'm not going to lump all religion, but I'm working through some stuff regarding religion in my life right now. And it makes me, but I'm glad they're going through the topics here. Same with like Bastion. It also makes me angry, the abuse of power. But I think it's also a good message that needs to be said. There is an abuse of power in the world. And I think Revendreth is like, they are taking what limited resources that's out there. Like I don't want to, I'll intend the pun, but I'm not trying to be funny. It drained me when I was taking the anima on that one tithe quest in Revendreth. And I'm not trying to go into spoilers too deep, but that zone, all the zones has something that like, you see why you're here, and you see. I loved Legion, that when in Legion and all the zones, you were there to save the different zones. They had issues, and I love that you have this in Shadowlands. That
Yeah.
They didn't realize that they needed you, but now they're like, wow, we need you.
Yeah, well, and the thing is too that like with Bastion, I am gonna put a tune in, in Bastion Covenant Wise. But at the same time, I'm a little annoyed at Bastion because it becomes, and honestly, if you've played through like I think even like one or two levels, you realize this. It's very early on in the story that you realize that these people aren't dead humans. It's dead of every race becomes blue humans. And it's like, that just seems wrong.
Yeah.
That upsets me.
They're
when
losing their
didn't have
uniqueness.
yeah, when I didn't have to think about it, it was fine. But then when I encountered the Worgans and the Taurens and all that, who right then couldn't become aspirants, they were in this kind of limbo because, of the whole, everything was put on hold because of the anima drought. Chris and I call it anime instead of anima.
I keep calling anima.
Anima. Oh, anyway. But because of the anima drought, everybody's put on hold. So you see these people who are still in their old forms, and then there's one guy. He is an aspirant, but he's a blue human, and yet his memories are all of Tauren. And you go, wait a minute, this isn't right.
I never even thought about that.
Yeah. And so that actually bothers me a little bit because, okay, all my tunes happen to be humanoids. I mean, the space goats that I have are the least humanoid, maybe. But it's like if they were to become aspirants, they would all become these blue humans.
Which does work into the weird stuff that you're seeing in Bastion. And I think the message, because, I mean, like the idea that in Bastion they're going after the one race, yeah.
And I mean, it kind of, you understand it when Sylvanas has her much touted conversation with Anduin, which I'm not going to spoil again if you haven't seen it, but there's a cinematic making the rounds right now where basically Sylvanas has a long talk with Anduin and explains everything. And she's very, you just get the impression while you're playing through the different places, the different areas, that everything does seem to be, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
That, and it's not something wrong just because of the anima drought, that there was maybe a problem with all this.
Yeah, I'm getting that same feeling that something's wrong, and that's why I'm excited to play more.
Yeah. It's like so the Arbiter, which again, this is a conversation that's like right in the beginning when you're first learning about Ouroboros. So I don't think I'm really spoiling anything here. But what do you think is the event that screwed up the Arbiter, that made her crash?
I was trying to figure it out because it resembled another event that you see later on, and I'm trying to figure out, like, I'll mention it. Oh, not the event that happens later on, but I'll mention what I think it could be. I almost think it's something to do with the void. If I'm getting it right.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a whole lot of theories out there. Sort of like. Well, I don't know if I want to say this because again, it's a lot of this speculation is going around. But there's another event that happens. It's an Ardenweald thing that happens during the story of Ardenweald, where you come to realize that the Winter Queen has a family, I guess is how I would put it.
Oh, yeah.
And and there's a lot of speculation as to who does she mean? Who's she talking about?
And
this is a kind of a similar thing. It's like there's a lot of speculation on what was the event that crashed the Arbiter. And we know it happened during the Legion expansion.
Interesting. Okay.
Well, Ian, and this was at BlizzCon the last time there was a BlizzCon, so not this past year, or not last month, but the year before, where Ian actually said at BlizzCon that Ysera was one of the last souls that made it into Ardenweald. And we also know that Ursoc did. I mean, that's in the cinematic.
Yeah.
So given that, it's like, okay, You know, if those were the last souls that made it into Ardenweald, it had to be something that happened like right after that, that broke the Arbiter.
I'm excited to see like what's coming and to see see because I'm glad to know I've not missed something in the campaign. I'm thinking, did I miss something that?
No, you didn't. No, it's probably something that happened during Legion.
Okay, so
and so if you played Legion, then you probably saw at least what it was that did it.
Okay. And I'm gonna bring up some stuff from chat that like Cap says the Kyrian drag us around by the scruff of our necks, that then we turn that to the Dredgers and Revendreth. And Granig is saying all the Kyrian, regardless of the Forsworn or Mossworn, they're all winged humans in a way, much like the other dead. So like the Valkyrie, regardless of what race you are, when you become a Valkyrie, you become a human. Which, that's
true. That's true. But the thing is that the original Valkyrie that we saw were all dead Vrykul. And so I think we thought of them as people who were originally, because remember the whole thing that was going on in Wrath of the Lich King, or it was a subplot, but I mean in Wrath of the Lich King, there's this whole idea of females specifically being, wanting to ascend, and they would prove that they were the best warriors. And, with this is how you get your white polar bear mount. Is you have to do these daily quests for these women who are aspiring to be Valkyr. And the idea is that they will go through this, and I may be getting some of this wrong. It's been a while since I played through this, but they go through this ceremony either right with the Lich King or with, people that he's put in charge of this process. And that's how they become Valkyr, is they die, they're raised, and, now they are. And of course you see it happening in Utgard Pinnacle, which I keep running because I want that goddamn mount. You see it if you're running Utgard Pinnacle. Svala Sorrowgrave is being raised as a Valkyr, I think. I think that's the idea. And, so that's the thing. It's like, I thought of all those Valkyr as maybe not human, but Vrykul, which are the original humans.
Yeah.
And so to me, it wasn't weird for Valkyr to be. And it's very obvious that the Valkyr are a corrupted form of Kyrians. You get.
Yeah.
So, it's very obvious that's Blizzard's intent, is to show you, the game's intent is to show you that Valkyr are some Maw corrupted version or Jailer corrupted version of Kyrians. Because remember, when the Kyrians are fully ascended, they have not only wings, but they have their helmets go over their eyes.
Yeah.
Like Valkyr.
Okay.
And
so now we know some of and now we know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm spoiling anything here by saying that. It's just an assumption that I've made. Valkyr, Kyrians, and that Valkyr were created by a process of undeath, so they're like corrupted Kyrians or something. Somehow Maw versions of Kyrians, and of course now Helya's in the Maw. So
and like this kind of shows that maybe Sylvanas has been to Shadowlands way before we have. That like she's known it's been around for a long time, and like she's getting stuff. And like going to the chat room, I agree with like Chris Raven that like the that murder people ain't cool and the Jailer's aesthetic doesn't agree with me. Yeah, too much cruelty, pain, torture, and Kay is talking about how the lantern thing that again cracked in Stormheim cinematic, but that happened in Legion, and Kat brings up Teldrassil, souls lost to the Maw from Teldrassil, so definitely happened in Legion. And I was talking with Joe Hogan, and Joe brought up a good point that what if Sylvanas was burning Teldrassil to get more souls coming to the Maw, that she knew it was broken, and she was like, I want to get all those Night Elves for some reason.
Well, that's supposedly the reason why she was like. Remember in the Battle for Lordaeron, where they say, "My God, she's killing her own people." And
Yeah.
remember when she plagues the whole battlefield?
Yeah.
And they say she's killing her own people. Why would she do that? And the answer is she was trying to send as many souls to the Maw as possible, and that's why she was burning Teldrassil as well. And so it has to happen. Sometime in Legion. There was. It was Akalon is one of the big streamers, I guess, who was saying that it was Gen's lantern or Sylvanas' lantern that she got from Helya or whatever. And I don't see that as being the thing that changed, because here's the thing. Originally in Legion, you were supposed to play from Azuna to Stormheim and then do Suramar, but you were supposed to work your way from right to left over the map, and then they changed it so that you could start anywhere.
Interesting.
But the original idea was that first you would have done Azuna, then you would have done Val'sharah with the Tears of Elune and Ysera dying, and its attendant dungeon and raid, which involves rescuing, what's his name? Malfurion. That's it. Malf, as I call him. And defeating Xavius. And then after that, it's High Mountain, and then it's Stormheim. So the thing that Gen did with smashing Sylvanas' lantern would have happened toward the end of quote-unquote Legion.
Okay. So then
toward the end of the original content arc of Legion.
Yeah.
I guess is what I would say.
And it all depends on if they kept in that or if they retconned it to be, because Blizzard's retconned stuff before. So it depends on if they kept the original intent.
Well, right. But I guess what I'm saying is that even though they allowed you to level in whatever order you wanted in terms of the zones, I think they still kept canonically the idea that Ysera and Ursoc died before Gen smashed the lantern.
That makes sense. Yeah.
It's still pretty canonical for them.
That makes sense. That here's the ultimate thing you could have done versus here's what you did.
Now there was one guy, I think this was Pyromancer, who thought that it might have been Argus dying that was the thing that fucked the Arbiter. And he had a pretty good reasoning in there, but I'm no longer on that team. I'm kind of team Akalon at this point, and his current as of 2 days ago, which was the last time I listened to one of his or I watched the video after he posted it, I guess. I rarely catch Twitch when it happens.
Yeah.
But I think I agree with what he was saying, which I don't know if I should say what it was or not.
And chat's talking about different things about Sylvanas and going to the Maw and bring up a lot of good points. Grenagas and Kaya bring up some points about when Sylvanas went to the Maw and when she knew about this death.
Yeah. Well, remember, Sylvanas threw herself off the top of Ice Cream Citadel. Yes, I said ice cream. Ice Cream Citadel at the end of Wrath of the Lich King. After he's defeated, she throws herself off the top. And there's a whole short story dealing with, this happened, that happened. And people are sort of now assuming that Blizzard has kind of massaged that into that being when she met the jailer.
Okay.
Because she was bad, remember?
Yeah.
I mean, Sylvanas was unfortunately almost unequivocally bad in up to, or at least very questionably good, if at all, in Wrath of the Lich King. I mean, she, the whole Wrathgate thing, was she guilty? Was she not? What did she know? When did she know it? Very Nixon. And so there was this the idea of, well, maybe she went straight to the Maw and met the jailer, and the bargain that she made might have had him in mind or something. Like she might have made a bargain with him then. Although she died again after that. So maybe that was, who knows. But...
And Chris Raven saying the story and chronicles that Odin created the halls of valor. He needed a way to ferry the souls, so he forced Helya to be his first Valkyrie after giving his eye to an entity of the Shadowlands.
Right. We didn't know about the eye part until very recently, why he had given up his eye, I think. I think that's new lore, if you will.
Yeah.
But yeah, the whole business in Chronicle is, and I could be wrong. I've read Chronicle like 65 times, but I forget very easily. But I don't know that it mentioned him giving up his eye so he could keep his eye on the Shadowlands in Chronicle. It might have. I don't know. But definitely it mentioned the whole thing about Helya and how she was the first Valkyrie and that she wasn't willing and blah, blah, blah. But I guess what I'm saying is that Valkyrie are based, at least, on the concept of the Kyrian from Bastion. That's all I'm saying. And that's my own theory, but it's a Kyrian, Valkyrie. I mean, why would they make it that close and then have them look that close?
And I'm wondering where the Forsworn go in with that too, because that's an interesting...
Well, the Forsworn kind of started with Devos, right, and Uther.
Yeah,
I'm assuming that's when the whole Forsworn thing started.
Okay, yeah, and then
when because to throw Arthas in the Maw, there might have been some contact there with the jailer saying, "Hey, we're here he is," and it might not have been just as simple as them just hovering above and throwing him down. There was probably some negotiation there.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it seems clear to me that Devos and Uther are now working for the jailer to some extent.
And Kay brings up a point that I noticed when we were going through Revendreth of Denathrius, that people talk about how you look at the different names of like some of the different dreadlords, and they even mentioned like Denathrius, Nathria, Nathrazem, and like there's all these things. It is interesting to see the creation of things that we've known of these powers.
Well, here's the thing. I had been hearing the idea that Sire Denathrius was a dreadlord before the game came out. So I guess I thought that you were supposed to know he was.
Okay, because I did not know. But I'm not always obvious.
If you look at Sire Denathrius, he's got horns.
Yes.
So unlike a lot of other Revendrethies, he has horns. He has, and he has perfect teeth, unlike anybody else in that zone. But then he's also got hooves, but he tries to hide them with his boots.
Ooh.
But if you look at him very carefully, and again, this is a section you haven't gotten to yet, so I don't mean to spoil it for you, but if you look at him very carefully in one of the main scenes in the zone, it's very obvious he's got hooves. So, and like I said, I know it's probably a spoiler to some degree to go, Sire Denathrius, is it, but it's like I thought everybody knew that. I really did.
And it probably was.
Everybody had been talking about it.
It probably was common knowledge, and I probably, again, there's a reason I don't do lore podcasts. I mean, I talk about lore sometimes, but yeah, there's a reason that I bring people on.
I'm not picking on you.
No. Yeah.
I'm picking on me in a way because, like I said, I had heard all this speculation before the game, or but while it was still in beta, and I was just like, oh, I guess this is just something everybody knows. Oh yeah, look, he has hooves. So, and then to find out that it was supposed to be a surprise. You're not supposed to know. So sorry, I just wrecked that for you.
Maybe you're actually a game developer and a game writer, and you work for Blizzard, and you're just not telling us.
So did I ever tell you about how Star Wars was spoiled for me? Not the first movie, but I think it's the second one.
I don't know if you did.
where Luke finds out it's where Luke finds out that Darth Vader's his father. I think that's the second, like episode 5.
Yeah, because then he's like, no, and then that's like the big
and
reveal.
Then the third one, right? And yeah, okay. So anyway, it came out quite a while after episode 4 did. I was in high school in episode 4 and a young high schooler. And then episode 5 came out and I was in college, and I was very friendly with a guy who lived in the space special interest house at Georgetown. So he and I decided to go together. It wasn't a date. It wasn't a date now. Not a date. We just went together.
Yeah.
We're on the bus. We're going toward the theater. And he says something to me about Darth Vader being Luke's father. And I'm like, you could have heard a pin drop on the whole bus.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? And he's like, oh my God. Because he knew I hadn't seen it.
Oh, what an asshole move to do. Yes.
He wasn't. It was by accident. But
Okay, good.
yeah, he did. It was sort of like me with the Sardonathris thing. It was suddenly realizing that I'd actually spoiled something here.
Yeah, and you didn't. Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, and I'm just like, what?
And yeah.
And the whole bus was just like. So since then, I don't mind spoilers all that much, because at the time, and this was, I don't know, like 82 or something, I think was the year. In 1982, I can't think of anything except Rosebud is the sled that could have been. And of course, Citizen Kane was a much older movie, so one wouldn't assume in 1982 to still, need to worry about that. But it's like in 1982, I think that was the big thing, that Darth Vader was Luke's father. And it was just like, oh my God. And after having that spoiled, it's like these days, spoilers don't bother me. But I try to be sensitive to the fact that they bother other people.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, after I had that spoiled for me, you're kidding.
Yeah.
What's a spoiler?
Again, to mention a series that I struggle with as a fandom, I remember reading online on Reddit, Snape killed Dumbledore, and I was like, I just picked up this book, and
See, that's another one. And by the way, he did.
oh shit. Okay, we better move on.
No, I knew.
Okay, good.
I never have finished reading the books. I do intend to watch the movies at some point, but I never finished reading the books. I trailed off somewhere in number 3. I was like, this is so boring.
That's a fandom that I don't feel welcome in right now.
No, ditto.
But I want to thank you for talking with me about WoW lore, though, because I learned some stuff today. But
I spoiled it.
Hey, it is actually an early quest thing in Revendreth, so it's not. Yeah, but you and I are the co-host of a podcast, Translucidity, and whenever I have content creators on, in addition to WoW, I like to get to know you better. I mean, I know you better, but I want to get the chat to know you better. So, since it was your creation that you've graciously allowed me to be a part of, what is Translucidity?
You are doing me a huge favor here. But yeah, Translucidity for me isn't just a podcast. It's sort of almost a brand. It's just I'm really lazy about building it. But what happened was when I realized that I was trans, I had a very short period, like overnight, of utter grief, because I was leaving everything that I built for myself as a woman specifically behind. Yeah. And so I, hysterical sobbing, et cetera, et cetera. But then after that, once I accepted it, I just felt like I was surrounded by this light. And I don't necessarily mean like in a religious sense, definitely spiritual, but I don't want to attribute it to any religion. I just was like, oh my God, the clarity. All of a sudden, my entire life started to make sense to me. And translucidity is a term that it's sort of a synonym for transparency. It's where you can just about see, through something.
Yeah.
And so I wanted everyone to understand themselves and their identities the way that I did. Because it's really hard to understand yourself and be honest with yourself. And I think that a lack of that is what causes so much of the pain in the world. And so I wanted everyone to have that kind of feeling of clarity that I suddenly had about myself. And, of course, there's the cute little trans pun in there.
Yeah.
So that's what translucidity is. Very, very elegant little pun.
And how did you decide to bring me on the podcast as a co-host?
Well, it was a natural thing. I had wanted to do more with you. And I also knew that, this idea for the podcast that I had, I just sat on it for a while because I didn't want to do it by myself.
Yeah.
But the only other person I knew who I really trusted to understand my vision and be on board with me was my partner, Chris. And while he's a wonderful, supportive person who I just don't know how I would even live without, he's not trans. And he's very supportive of trans people. He's just the most positive ally you could have. But he's not trans, and I wanted to co-host with another trans person. And so it was almost like 5 seconds after you came out as trans, I think.
Yeah.
You were like, I'm trans, and I'm like, wanna be on my podcast?
I remember that because I was like, Sascz, I need to tell you something, and I come over to him, Sascz, I'm not male, and here's what I've been exploring about myself, and you're like, oh my God! And I was like,
yes, it's like, oh my God, it's okay, you're trans, be on my podcast, please.
I loved it because I always have loved talking with you, and I've had you on this podcast many times, and it's fun to have you back on here again because it's been a while. I mean, going bi-weekly, it's hard to fit every guest in there, but you have been someone that's like, since the beginning, I've gotten to see your journey, and it has opened my eyes in so many ways. And in fact, I'm going to real quick get very sappy real quick. I'm just going to do it at the end of the show, but I need to thank you, Sascz. It's amazing that the fact that I had you on this podcast, and I'm just looking up. It was back in 2019 on episode 93. I had you on before, but that was the episode where you shared your experience being trans, and you were very honest and open there. And through all this stuff, you were the first person that I knew in my own circles who came to me and said that you were trans. And I was taken aback only just because I've never known somebody else directly who was trans, and you helped me see it in a better light. That I got to know your journey. You've helped teach me how to be polite, how to be nice. If that makes sense, and to respect it. And then
you were so automatically accepting. Because I thought there was going to be some hesitation on your part. I remember, shamefully I might add, when I was just very, very, very deeply into Christianity at this one point in my life, and someone came out to me as gay. And I still liked the person, and I told them this, but I was like, but it's really hard for me to accept that lifestyle. I look back at that and I'm just dying now because I actually knew I was queer from a very early age, but I was in denial. I just gone through this period of my teens where I was just heavily in denial. And so, I just tried to word it in a way of, I love you, I accept you, but it's hard for me to accept this thing, and later on we worked it all out. I was a big asshole, and I'm groovy now, but at the time, I didn't just accept that person, and you were immediately just completely accepting of me, at least to my face. You didn't have the need to tell me that you didn't approve, or that or that you had issues or anything. You didn't, and I just felt so good about that conversation. And, I felt completely accepted.
I'm glad to hear that, because I admit as a teen, I was more vocally an asshole, and I own that. As I told somebody, I own who I was as a teen.
We all make mistakes.
I had been trying to be a lot more open, and when you came to me, I didn't understand it. I admit that, but I was like, this is you, and you are my friend, and I'm going to accept you as my friend no matter what. And you've helped me.
That's what I felt. It was that acceptance.
Wow.
I'm going to cry too.
Because then when I came to you, I was like, I came to you about who I was, because I hadn't fully gone public with everything, and you were accepting. So you were an inspiration, and helped let me explore who I was, but you also opened my eyes to what it is to be trans, and all that, and
this wonderful weird journey that we're on.
Yes. And that's why it's an honor to be on Translucidity, because it's fun to fun's the wrong word. It gives me a platform as I'm learning, and I feel like I'm learning things from you. I'm learning things from the people that we've had on it, and that's why it's been an honor to be on another podcast that's not gaming related per se.
Yeah,
but
we talk about gaming, and we are gamers.
Yeah,
but
it's been something that it's a podcast that I've learned a lot from, and it's helped me become more confident too in who I am, and being confident in where my journey is.
I think it's why I can't do it every week, even though I want to, is because of how painful, not in a bad way, not necessarily, but how painful it is to do that podcast.
Yeah.
Because we are so honest, and we know that we are anything but perfect.
Yeah.
We have this little expression, ass privilege.
Yes.
Because the privilege to be an ass, because, first of all, we're white. We're both, solidly middle class, fairly well off people.
Absolutely.
And, we have privilege coming out our asses. So, well, hopefully not in a physical way, but it's so painful sometimes to do that podcast, because it's so humbling to know, first of all the ways in which we need to be better people. Both of us, I think, probably me more than you, but because I really, oh God, sometimes I just feel like a monster, but also just how honest we have to be, and knowing that there are people out there who are very non-positive to us, towards us, and we know that they're listening, and maybe some of them are learning. I hope that's the case, learning, and also becoming more translucid as time goes on, but maybe there are some people who it's just, hardening their hearts too. And how to deal with that in a kind way.
And I want to be the best that I want to be the best that I can, and I want to be a role model, like somebody that I know is listening to the show, and I don't want to divulge their name to respect their privacy, but it humbled me, the fact that they said, because of me talking about being non-binary on this podcast, that they had somebody come out to them as non-binary, and they were able to be so accepting to them in such a way. And I'm just like, that's
just so amazing.
'Cause
that's so amazing.
We're not out to turn anybody trans or anything like that. We're just
no, we do not have an agenda.
No, there is no agenda. We just want people to understand it and respect it. That's all And that's even why
Respect.
that's why I bring it onto this show. This is a gaming podcast about WoW, but we're also human beings. Ever since I started FrazlCast, I have been amazed to realize there's another human being that I'm talking to. That the game is what brings us together, but what we are like in the weird mixture of who makes us is really what this podcast is about. It's a WoW podcast, but I want to explore the inner workings. That's why I'm talking with you about this podcast on here. I want people to know everybody has it. I think WoW could remove its toxicity if somebody's realized there's a fucking person on the other side. What you say to them, that you don't know what the shit they're going through some days. You don't know what they're struggling with some days. And you don't know that something that you say off the cuff, what it means. It hurts me when I hurt somebody by saying something. And it's why I've tried to be a lot more kind. I've tried to realize, what is my word saying? It's why I'm trying to drop ableist language for my words, because I realize some words I may say, to me, I can say off the cuff, but to somebody else, it really strikes deep.
Yeah, and you know, and sometimes even when you are differently abled, you can, you know, like for instance, I'm sure there are times that I'm like, you know, oh, I've been blind. That's not really good to say.
No.
You know, oh, I didn't understand, you know, is so much better. But, you know, that's just an example of ableist language.
Yeah.
That honestly, there are times when I don't think. I know there are times when I say racist stuff.
Same.
That just horrifies me later to say, oh my God, I said that. You know, because I wouldn't, you know, I want to think of myself as not that person, but I am that person. And, you know, as an older white person, I'm going to be that person. You know, but yeah, I think just trying to be kind and trying to be sensitive and trying to present our truths as honestly and as vulnerably as we can. You know, realizing that there are going to be some people who are just going to be jerks. Out there, but just taking it, just going with it.
I had somebody I came out on Facebook and had somebody say what was probably a joke, and it came to like I did a kind joke back to them, but it was still painful because I was like, I just shared something very vulnerable with you on Facebook, and you turn around and turn who I am into a joke, and it shows the power of language and the power of stuff, and that's why, again, I want people to just understand, take time to listen. And I mean, I'm trying to be much more of a listener than a talker. This year, in so many ways, a turning point was during Black Lives Matter when it was going around that we need to listen, and I was like, absolutely, we need to listen. So I released an episode of this podcast saying, we need to listen to these voices. We still need to listen to these voices. It's not a trend. It's still happening. But this year changed me in a lot of ways.
There are times when I say to myself, you know, just going back to the whole podcast thing, it's like, oh God, I'm another white person with a podcast. You know, and that's another reason I hesitated. You know, that and the lack of a co-host was that I said, what right do I have to be the person sitting there? But then I looked at it and it's like, you know what? I have the wherewithal. You know, I have a computer, I have a mic, I have, you know, this ability to put this out there. And to the extent that I can help anybody who's less privileged than I'm going to use this platform to do it. I don't know to what extent I am actually helping anyone who's less privileged than I am, but I am. I want to.
Yeah.
That's.
And maybe it can encourage somebody who that they can add to the voices out there. That's why I love podcasting, is how you can add another voice to it. That it's not just because I've got a podcast, you can't make a podcast. Right.
Or have people on the podcast or whatever.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, if I could get some trans people of color on my podcast, I would be really happy. I'm hoping at some point it happens. We've had a decent number of guests, people who are identify as trans, either binary or non-binary, on our podcast, but they all have been white, and it's, again, they're all wonderful people. I mean, we're all wonderful people, I think, but I'll feel that I'm making more of a difference if I can give a voice to somebody who doesn't have the ability to just easily put together a podcast the way that I can.
Absolutely. That's what I've been trying to do, even with this show, is bring people on who don't have a podcast and give them a voice. And I've had some guests on here who then they had the courage and confidence afterwards to start a podcast, because they're like, I didn't think anybody would even cared about my opinion. And it's about amplifying voices. It's about raising.
Exactly. Yeah.
Before we end the show, because wow,
Yeah,
time
we've got a
flies.
while.
On podcasting, I'm gonna probably say that the best advice that you would give somebody who wants to start a podcast would be honesty, transparency.
Yeah. Be who you are on the air,
Yeah.
and understand that it's okay if you find, I'm still struggling with this, but it's okay if you find that you can't be as consistent with scheduling. I mean, it is great, and I'm sure probably the most successful podcasters out there are the ones who put up a show some people every day. I don't know how they do that, but like Martine Powers from the Washington Post, she has that damn podcast every day. And but it's her job also. But you don't have to get something out every week, every day, even every month. If you are being honestly you will find that people will start to listen. I don't think we have on Translucidity a large listener base yet, but every week or so I hear about somebody new who listened to it. So it's not zero either. So that's what I would say. Just be unabashedly you, and just, and do it as often as you feel you can.
Yeah, and you're gonna make mistakes. You won't be the same person when you started. That, I mean, look at it. I started podcasting as a male. Now I'm non-binary. I mean, and you may, not that you will, but you may discover stuff about yourself if you're honest.
Trans if you podcast. No. But just understand, you're gonna screw up.
Oh, yes.
I have said some things. Just even, we're only like up to 10 episodes or something on Translucidity, and I have said some things that I go back and I'm like, oh my God, I said that. You'll screw up, but just admit it if and when you do, and just be honest about it. If somebody says something to you, and they're right, just say, yep, you're right. I screwed up and I care, and I'm just gonna keep trying to get it right.
And you'll be an imperfect ally. I'm an imperfect ally, and I try to say the right things, and I learn when I mess up, and I want to be better. I want to do better. I want to be. I like what Cypher says on Twitch about being an accomplice. That we're not just saying stuff, but we're doing action.
Yes. Yep, we're accomplished accomplices.
And sometimes, again, I'm gonna mess up, say the wrong things.
By the way, your hair is getting so long. I love it.
Oh, thank you.
When you posted your version of that little girl waving her fan, in the dress.
Oh, yes.
When you posted your version of that GIF, it's GIF. I was just like, dang. Frazley's hair is almost as long as that little girl's.
I was noticing that too, because
Yeah.
For anybody who doesn't know, if you search for Frazley Anger on GIF search on Twitter,
GIF.
GIF,
That's why it's called Jiffy.com, not Giphy.com.
Okay. I'll give you one. It's either GIF or GIF in some way. But yeah, no. If you search for those, you'll find me recreating a scene from Mr. Mom with the hairbrush.
Oh, it's a hairbrush.
It's a hairbrush.
Okay, I thought it was a fan.
No, it's a hairbrush. So, I'm sorry for audio listeners, but this is a fan.
Yeah, baby. Just another fan of yours, right?
Oh yes.
Oh my God.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on the show again. I mean, and sharing who you are. I know we talk on Translucidity, but thank you for sharing it here, and thank you for sharing it with this audience of who you are.
It's always a pleasure.
And I want to have you back again. It's fun to end 2020, which has been a shit show, with somebody who has helped me have a great 2020. Like, you have been such a close family member, and I'm going to tear up again. I really can't thank you enough.
Thank you. You have made 2020 livable.
Oh, we're going to cry, which is not great for audio.
I know. I'm trying not to because I'm already stuffed up.
Oh.
You know, so I have a coded, but I don't. But, you know, anyway.
Well, for people who wanna see you on the interwebs, where can they find you?
Well, I'm Lagolad #7272 on Discord. Feel free to slide into my DMs. I think I'm allowing everyone to DM me, so I'll check that. I'm Lothy, that's LOTHIE #1186 on BattleNet. You can grab me there if you're on BattleNet and chat at me. I'm at Lothy and at Translucidity1 on Twitter. And I'm Lagolad on Instagram. That's LAGOLAD. And before you say I spelled Legolas wrong, it means bunny boy.
Oh!
Lago. Yeah, like Lagomorph.
Yes.
Is a bunny. Yeah. And lad, of course, you know, boy. So Lagolad is a bunny boy.
I like that.
Bunny.
And if you ever like, does that mean at some point I could be like, if I'm waiting for you, not tonight because you're waiting for me tonight, but if I'm ever waiting for you, can I be hop to it, bunny boy?
Smack.